Let's take a look at the starting grid, and it is a good one of the strongest that we have seen in some time, our Porsche starting grid. As you take a look at it, the unbelievable lap of Bernd Schneider put the Mercedes on pole again in that second day. Very unusual, but very effective, alongside Martin Brundle in one of those remarkable Toyota GT1s. In the second row, another of the Mercedes, Jean-Marc Dunant, will start that car, and next to him on the outside will be the number 25 Porsche GT1. York Muller will be starting that machine. In the third row, another of the Porsches, Alan McNish, will be driving that machine. And next to him, Andrew, one of those BMWs that you had talked about, Pierluigi Martini, will be driving the first of the open-top world sports cars.
Yeah, just get some outstanding pictures there from the Ferrari. You see, that's Jean-Christophe Bouillon at the wheel. I think the Ferraris, just as we heard Moretti say, they really don't have much of a chance. They aren't for this race. Just one of the Toyotas going through the pictures. But really, the big thing to look at, Greg, now is that first lap. They really can't resist it, you know, these guys. They really go for it. They want to lead, pass this line the first time through, and in that first hour, there's going to be a big Grand Prix. And we're going to be counting the laps too, because that will show the sort of fuel consumption. Until now, all through that qualifying, maybe they've been sandbagging. We really don't know. Really, it doesn't start until it starts.
This is the Toyo Tires track map, as you indicate, and it is absolutely breathtaking, this circuit. You come down where the checkered flag is there, just past the Ford chicane, is the pit straight, and it is something different everywhere on this track.
Very fast course. There's only one real slow corner. That's the Arnage corner, and then quite a long run into the Porsche curves. That's a very, very technical part of the racetrack. David, perhaps you'd take us a little bit further, right here into the Ford chicane and so on through.
Sure. Actually, the Porsche curves are quite a bit faster than you think. I've walked them over and over from, you know, I didn't get a chance to drive the car in pre-qualifying, so I took the scooter and drove around the course, walked it, and it doesn't look as fast as it is. It has so much grip. You go in, you may go to fourth gear, but you're fourth gear all through the Porsche S's, which is a lot faster than you think. And it just has so much grip, it's tremendous. And obviously, the more downforce you got, the faster you're going.
And a track like this, of course, promotes some interesting items to follow our Porsche storylines. First of all, we've touched on the huge manufacturer battle. It is massive, perhaps the greatest entry, certainly, since the post-war, the 50th running here at Le Mans. The GT1, the perceived dominance of those cars, incredibly strong. Can the Viper deliver? It certainly looks like it can, but it's a long race. And the weather, Andrew, is iffy.
Very iffy. Last night there was a massive thunderstorm. There was hail. It almost would have broken the whole concentration of everybody there. But let's just hope we don't have a thunderstorm like that.
We are heading now, as you can see, the cars through that final turn, the right-hander of the Ford chicane.
And the Bentley Arnage, a new model, will peel off. Very, very slow, going into this final run to the line. They time it exactly, so they start bang on. Normally, of course, it's 4 o'clock French time. Today it's 2 o'clock, and the lights are green, and it's go!
We are underway.
Just to think that Brundle was just getting in front there. We'll see them as they go up here. Oh, and look at Schneider! Schneider goes around the inside. Oh, I told you, it's a Grand Prix from the beginning. Ridiculous.
Well, again, the prestige of leading the first lap, leading the first hour, we're seeing it played out. And a great start by one of those BMWs. That car has leapfrogged into third place. BMW serious about this as well. Then the other Mercedes running fourth. A great battle, but Schneider leads Brundle. Then the BMW, Mercedes, and the first of the GT1 Porsches.
Yeah, I think it's Tom Christensen in that BMW. We'll get a better view of it in a moment. And now they set down the long Mulsanne straight. And still lots of wheel-to-wheel racing. Usually there's action here at this first chicane. We have people spinning off here regularly on the first lap.
Look at that, fanning out, David. 3 abreast heading into that first chicane. This is a 24-hour race.
Well, I tell you, you know, I've done Daytona a million times, and it's the same thing. That first lap there in Sebring and here is important for the first lap and the first hour. You want to show well because you know the world's watching.
And we have seen the outright blinding speed of the Toyota, Sam, as he just drove by the Mercedes in between Tartaruga and that first chicane. Brundle leads.
Well, Brundle, of course, is a former Grand Prix driver, and he is really, really good. He is fully aware of the PR implications, let's put it that way. But look at the order here. I mean, we've got the Toyota, we've got the Mercedes-Benz, we've got BMW, we've got Porsche. This is what we were talking about before the race began. A major battle among major manufacturers.
One of the Porsches now has moved clear just a little bit of that battle. The Mercedes, the BMW, and another of the Porsches, though, continue, I mean, to duke it out. They have some serious racing right now, working through the, well, the last bit of the Porsche curves heading toward the Ford chicane in the pit area. But this battle is tremendous.
Well, it certainly is, and just to give you a rundown of the top 10 after the first couple of laps, you got Brundle, and then obviously you got Schneider in second place in the Mercedes-Benz, then you got that Boots and Martini battle, then you got Jean-Marc Gounon, Suzuki's up there in the top 10, McNish and the rest of the guys, and John Nielsen, the best of the Nissans, he's running currently in 9th position.
Watch that. Probably next come the brakes and finally the tires and fuel.
Here out front, the Toyotas now have moved to first and second places. You may just have seen it on the graphic. And there is a Toyota fourth also with a Guri Suzuki, another Grand Prix driver at the wheel. So Toyota 1, 2 and 4. And the best Porsche now, Alan McNish, has moved up to 5th position.
Martin Brundle will bring the number 28 car in. Remember, it's a 60-kilometer speed restriction down there, which is about 38 miles an hour, so it really takes an eternity to get these cars back to the pits. You can see there's a long orange rope being brought out to try and clear the crowd, to make it an easy access for Martin to get into his pit stall. You can see the tires are on these little stands there so the mechanics can easily reach them. First thing happens is the engine is shut off. The 2 refuelers go to work. There's then a maximum of 4 mechanics allowed to work on the car. They're allowed 2 wheel guns, 4 mechanics only. It's not like Grand Prix racing where you have a flood of people working on the car at the same time. And if you do make a tire change, remember, it really extends these pit stops. Typically you're doing all the work at the same time. If they decide to change tires, which it looks like they will, this car is running on Michelin's, they're going to go to get the car in the air. They'll then go change the fronts. Meanwhile, Martin fires it up. They've obviously checked the tires out, and he's out of here. Good pit stop. All the 3 Toyotas are on a different pit strategy. It looks like the Boutsen car has another couple of laps left, and then the number 27 machine should be in and around 4. So good lap potential on the number 27 machine.
And Brundle takes the number 28 back out into the chicane, leading into the approach to the Dunlop Bridge, the S's to Tartaruga.
Thierry stalls it momentarily. Back up. He's out of his pit.
Yeah, well, of course, while these Toyotas have been making their early pit stops, yes, they were the hares, but we have a new leader, and that is Bernd Schneider. He has done 10 laps, and of course the Porsches haven't stopped yet. And maybe we're just seeing some of these tactics starting to play out early. And perhaps Toyota have the speed, but possibly, Sam, they don't have the fuel consumption.
Or, so far, are afraid to take a risk. They have not done as much testing as the other teams, have no experience here. Remember, I mean, this is their first shot at Le Mans, so it's a very tricky thing. They do have a good place for people to sleep back there, so they're optimistic they'll get as far as the night.
We have a report, one of the Vipers also down in pit lane as we're watching Bernd Schneider hustling that beautiful Mercedes CLK LM, and the key there is LM. This is in many ways a very new car, and one of the Panos is in. That is the independent effort, if you will, of Don Panos, powered by a huge 6-liter V8 Ford engine. A great. Welcome back to Le Mans. There is the car, number 35 Mercedes of Schneider, just exiting the pits. It was a quick stop. However, was it too long? Was the number 36 team machine able to take over the lead in the 3rd place car, number 25? One of the Porsche GT1s just completing the stop. Jörg Müller, the driver. These stops coming frequently and getting done in a big hurry right now.
Yeah, but the big news is that, Greg, they put 12 laps in the Mercedes, and so did the Porsche. So parity there. Just waiting to see now whether the number 36 guy is actually going to squeeze 13 laps out of his first stint, and that would be big news.
Big news indeed. They were talking about if they could get 13 laps, the GT1 machines could get 13 laps, it would be huge, in a sense, seal the fate of a GT1 versus the LMPs.
On screen here, you see, Toyota has just moved up to 2nd place. working really hard. Bernd Schneider, but he couldn't hold off the second Toyota. So Martin Brundle now is actually 20 seconds ahead from the second Toyota. That's Thierry Boutsen at the wheel, always drove for Porsche in these races. And then, of course, we got Bernd Schneider.
Sure, there isn't a team here that doesn't worry about their gearboxes. Even the 911 Porsches and GT2 had some problems in practice with their gearbox, their new sequential change gearbox, and the GT1 Works Porsches have had some problems fitted. Oh, look at this.
Big problems for the Mercedes. That is Schneider crawling down the track. That is just past pit out. He is pulling into pit out. Now the question is, since he's met it, can he get, if he rolls back into pit lane, can he then be assisted and be helped?
I don't believe you're allowed to roll backwards.
Let's go down to Calvin.
Okay, well, Bernd Schneider is sitting at pit out right now. It's going to be interesting to see what the rules allow, whether they can actually back into pit lane, or once he's past the pit entrance, whether he's got to get all the way around. Obviously, a big problem with the car. It does look like there's enough room. Martini now is out of the BMW pit, but he's got to pull back in. Very dangerous there, very high-speed part of the track. You just saw the Toyota go by. We're going to try and get a little closer here, guys, so come back to us.
We will. Interestingly, you can see Schneider wanting nothing more than to roll back into the pit lane, and the marshals stopping him and pushing him further out the pits. Getting instruction now. I bet he's fuming inside that cockpit.
I'd be very surprised if Le Mans regulations allowed a car to go backwards any length.
No, you can push the car out of a dangerous position.
Yeah.
And it might just have I just wonder if that's a transmission problem there. Transmissions were the talk of qualifying. It is a very tough race on the drivetrains here. And those marshals pushing the car out there, well, something is it could, of course, be an electronic problem.
But talking about transmission and drivetrain, gentlemen, we were talking, well, let's go back right down to Calvin. He's there. Calvin?
Okay, well, they're pushing him right to the very end. There is a little access road here. Be interesting to see if Bernd gets out of the car, and then obviously if he'll be willing to talk to us. But I'm sure he's in radio communication with his team, and it wouldn't surprise me to see a flurry of activity here shortly, whilst they get the Mercedes crew down here. But there is oil coming out of the back end of the car as they bring it around. Not a big pull, but certainly some problem there in the driveline.
Well, as we were talking about a number of times, when we watch him go through some of these turns, he was really up on the curbing, and that is very hard on driveline components. Helmet now back at the site of the Mercedes problem for the number 35 entry, and the door is up. Let's see if Schneider steps out, Andrew.
I would say that this car is history, to be honest. You see that sort of thing? They can't crawl it back to the pits. They can't push it back there. The only person allowed to work on that car is the driver, and Schneider is reasonably technically minded. He might be able to change the ignition box or something, and we'll try and check out what's happening. Davey, what can you... sorry, Calvin, what can you see down there?
Well, unfortunately, the officials won't let us any closer to the cockpit area of the car. As you said, the door is up. There's a very small trail of oil coming from the right side of the car. I cannot see any damage, and it looks like it may be coming from an oil cooler or something in the side pod area of the car. But Schneider's obviously still talking to his team. They're trying to make a decision on what to do, as Andrew said. And Schneider's getting out now. It looks like he's asking the officials whether they can push the car back, and it could be over for this Mercedes, one of the favorites in this race. This is big news in the early going. Bernd, what happened out there? The car was running so strong, and then suddenly you pulled.
That was the rear, and suddenly was no more power. I don't know. Then I switched off the engine.
The officials would not let you bring the car back to the pit area. It has to go all the way around the track. Is that correct? They will not let you back the car up for work to the car?
That's right. The car parked there.
Okay, well, it looks like the day is over for Bernd Schneider, and a big upset here early.
Only about an hour and 20 minutes into this 24-hour endurance run, and yet the action has been fast and furious. We'll be stepping away for a moment. Go nowhere. We'll be back.
Well, it seems like there's a problem on the number 36 Mercedes-Benz now, driven by Christophe Bouchot. He took it out. He's not done many laps, and he's back in here. They're looking at a problem down on the left bank of this V8 engine, and they didn't put any fuel in. They immediately went to work in the engine compartment. It'd be ironic if this this was actually a repeat performance of the problem that Schneider had. In fact, maybe they've actually got a fluid here, like they may be bleeding a system. He's shaking the steering wheel. I'm not sure if this car has power steering or not, but he's shaking the steering. He says there's a big problem with the steering on the front end, indicating to the crew. Meanwhile, on the left side, sometimes there's actually a bleed nipple there where they can actually bleed the clutch or something. So it looks like there's several problems here potentially with this car. Meanwhile, they're taking the front end off as well. So at the moment, the Mercedes-Benz crew, this AMG team, are not sure where the problem lays, but we'll try and get an update for you.
Well, Calvin, in the Mercedes press conference when Norbert Haug was talking, he made the comment, he said, we don't expect this race to be trouble-free, so we're expecting problems. We hope we can deal with them as things go. I would submit, though, that he wasn't expecting to have problems of this nature this soon.
Well, no, I can't imagine that they were. They gave this race a bypass last year because they weren't sure enough of themselves going into it. So it was obviously a big step to come this year. But they were so successful in the GT Championship last year, dominating the action. You really expected them, Andrew. You saw all of that stuff. I mean, you almost see these cars and expect them to be invincible. This is quite a surprise.
Back down to Calvin is with Christophe Bouchou.
Christophe, what is the problem with the car?
I don't know yet exactly what's happened. I have just one light on the board, and I prefer to stop.
It seemed like you had a problem with the steering. They've changed the steering rack or taken that out, and they're also doing work at the back end of the car. Do you have two different problems, potentially?
Yes, we changed the power steering.
Okay, it seemed like he had a steering problem at high speed is what he was indicating to the team. The reason he had to get out is that the mechanic is literally diving in the footbox of the car, so he needs to work in there, and Christophe was kind enough to have a few words with us, but a lengthy stop, but it does not look like it's related to the problem on Schneider's car. As you see right now, the number 36 machine, the sister car to the Schneider car that was retired early, this one is also out of the game. Looks like they've retired this car also. There's no mechanics working on the car right now. They obviously had a severe steering problem, as Christophe Bouchou explained to us, and looks like the day is over for Mercedes. So they started in certainly a shroud of glory there with the pole position, but they didn't last too long, and that's the whole thing about Le Mans. It really takes a lot of years, and they've been away for a little bit, and they probably need to come back next year with a different game plan.
I would suspect he'd be interested to know that the car that car of his is duking it out with, number 28, the Toyota, just looped it, and it looked like the approach to the Ford chicane over there, Andrew, so that was a bit of a moment.
Yeah, I think that Eric Hellery is at the wheel, and he's won this race in the past, but obviously a mistake there.
First kind of chink in the armor for Toyota, that slow pit stop and then a spin.
Let's take a look at it, Sam. Oh, he got it real loose under braking.
Yeah.
Boy, clumsy error.
I think what happened there, he left his braking until he was past that GT2 Porsche, and then he was away, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you might say, well, why?
Oh, the GT2 car doing that Toyota a huge favor.
Boy, did he ever. You might say, well, why would a guy, as we see it again, brake so late? Well, one reason is you do want to keep the regularity of your lap times. You know, you just don't want the lap sheets to show your name with a slower lap next to it. You know, so one of the, despite all rational things where you know you ought to be taking it easy, he could have dusted that Porsche on the exit of the turn, but it would have added a couple or 3 seconds to his lap. He didn't want that.
Been in the pits for quite a long time now. I just wonder what the problem down there is. The car which, when it came into the pits after 53 laps, was actually leading. And Kelvin, I think we can get a pit report now.
Well, it's obviously a braking problem. That's the way it looked on the track, and in fact, they're now working on the right corner of the car. There's a problem with the caliper there in the right area. They're trying to get me out of there as we speak, and looks like they're doing work on the brakes all the way around. I'm not sure if they're going for a pad change exactly. You can see the mechanics there with the ratchet wrench there working on something. I'm not sure to what extent they're going to work on these brakes, and this had the bleed bottle out, like maybe he was loose brake pedal itself, as in it was going down too far. But the other thing is with this ABS system, remember Martin said early on, they do have the availability of ABS, but they haven't been using it because they've not been happy with how it works. Now, whether that means it's off for the whole race, or whether it's a switch they can actually put it back in, I'm not sure. But Eric obviously had some problems, and severe enough that they're thoroughly investigating. Meanwhile, one of the other sister cars is actually in right behind him. The number 27 machine has brought their car in, and this is going to be tough for these guys when they get through with this stop. And I'm not sure if there's a problem with this car. So after about 3 or 4 hours here, everything looked rosy for the Toyota team, and suddenly we saw a lengthy stop for the 29 car, and now the 27 car is in as well, and problems are starting to crop up.
Serious lack of urgency, Calvin, for that 27 car. They got the door open. It looks like they're just chatting. Nothing really other than that going on.
Well, it looks like it might be a gearbox problem. They've got it in gear. They're rolling it backwards and forwards. So, again, it might be a driveline problem. He may be stuck in a gear. Now it looks like he may be in neutral. They're actually able to free roll it. But that sounds like it's a gearbox problem.
That's the sixth place car.
Yeah, and we just saw Akira Katayama there, I think. They aren't possibly changing the discs, are they, on the rear there on the 28 car?
Well, they're just bleeding them, Andrew, right now. I mean, they've not disconnected the calipers to get the discs off, and they've now got the bleed bottles connected on this machine. And meanwhile, there's no point in me sticking my head into that Japanese car because I won't understand a word of what they're saying. But a lot of work going on the rear brakes on the number 28 machine, which is a shame because it's running so strong.
Well, I would suspect that if you've got a problem with pressure in the fluid, it can affect the bias, and that's why those rears may have locked up. We'll try and answer that question for you. After about 3.5 hours of the 1998 24 Hours of Le Mans, we are back. That is the number 27 machine. Whatever the problem was, it is back out. Currently shows in 6th position. The leader remains a Toyota. It is the number 29 Toyota GT1. Thierry Boutsen started. Kellner's, I believe, now behind the wheel. Then the number 25 Porsche runs second. The sister car, number 26, is third. A good solid run for Porsche. The BMW, the prototype, the World Sports Car, is up into 4th, having a very solid run. And still shown in 5th is the number 28 Toyota as well. So that is your current top 5, and again, a good mix. But it appears the plan of Porsche working very well. You'll notice they've popped the little cover off right in front of the windshield in that car. One would suspect that's where brake reservoirs and master cylinders might live. This may be a very deep problem for the Toyota team.
Yeah, we just saw very quickly the face of the designer of the car, Duc Cortans. He looked very concerned.
We are, however, watching right now on screen your 2nd place car. That is the number 25 Porsche GT1 98. Jörg Müller, Uwe Olsen, and Bob Wallach, the drivers of that car, and it is running like clockwork right now and looking very strong indeed, Andrew.
Yeah, just 20 seconds ahead of its teammates, so those two Porsches running absolutely the same strategy.
Coming up on traffic, a bit of a moment there. The Momo car never saw him coming up behind him, and he just wisely tucked in right behind him.
Oh.
And the GT2 car didn't sense he was there and shut the door as well. That's Didier Tays in the Momo machine, then the GT2 car, and then I would suspect a rather startled driver of a Porsche GT1 98. Nonetheless, just backs off a little bit, says we'll live to fight another day, gets around the GT2 traffic.
Boy,
at this stage.
that makes you mad, though, doesn't it? When you got your lights on and you're running this hot Porsche, and these guys just get in the way. Don't they understand they're supposed to get out of your way? Of course, they don't even see you sometimes.
Off the 350s with regularity, and that's good.
We're watching the driver of the Nissan was really flashing the lights to get by one of the cars. That was Frank Freon in one of the Courages, and the Toyota used that opportunity to blow by them both. But David Murray in the number 7 Yost car right in that mix. Very quick equipment and running in very close concert. They come up on another GT2 car. There's the Nissan, then the Toyota. Right behind them is Murray in the Yost machine. And then the Courage of Frank Freon, and Frank Freon was doing a lot of hunting in the mirrors. He knew there was some quick stuff behind him. And now they come through that corner, Sam, that is such a delicate touch. That right-hander that leads into Indianapolis has no name and is a brutal corner now. Is that the number 28 machine back out?
Yeah, it is.
There's a bit of a development.
Well, and there the
But
other
it's another one going very slow.
Yeah.
Going by at the same moment.
Oh, incredibly slow, way off the pace, off to the right, slow enough that the workers display a white flag, which means extremely slow-moving equipment.
Is that the 28 car?
No, the 28 car, I believe, was the one we just saw leaving the pits. So that could be the 27 car, currently shown in 11th spot, that had pitted and had its own set of problems. So, boy, the Toyota, how did you put it? The Toyota camp might be unraveling a little bit here, Sam.
Well, it's funny how they ran so perfectly through about 3 hours and 5 minutes, and then suddenly, running in a row, they had 3 or 4 problems, which are now beginning to, extend a bit, and they're obviously much weakened. I mean, they've still got a car right up front, but their other 2 cars have dropped way, way back.
Particularly for 2nd and 3rd, the 2 Porsches running in close concert behind the leading Toyota will be back. Welcome back to Le Mans. There is your leader, the number 29 Toyota GT1, and they spell it O-N-E. They are emphatic. This is a very special piece of racing equipment, and it continues to lead. That is heading down, I believe, into Indianapolis once again. They'll head up and over toward the tightest corner in the track, Arnage, and then heading back. And it is fascinating to watch these cars on this track. They are running extremely well. And speaking of running extremely well, we've been talking on and off about one of the McLaren BMWs, which everybody kind of had written off. Won't be competitive, won't be in the hunt. Up to 13th right now is the number 40 entry, and one of the drivers is Bill Oberlin. We are back at Le Mans. We are right in the midst, it appears, of the Nissan pit sequence. That was the 4th place. Number 30 Nissan has made the stop. No driver change, I believe, in that one. And there's your 5th place machine right now. That is the car that was in the pits just moments ago. And there's a yellow flag waving, so something may be looking at here. That was, I believe that's Arnage, and that they may still have some debris on the track, perhaps from where that Riley and Scott Ford had stumbled off the track. Nonetheless, the number 31 car back and underway, and working through this sequence of corners. It doesn't really have a name, does it, from Arnage down to the Porsche curves, but it looks like it is very quick.
Yeah, it's flat out down there.
They are flat out. It's just an ordinary road, and as you enter the Porsche curves, if you stayed out on the public road, it would lead you up through the section that was called Maison Blanche, or White House, one of the most fearsome and formidable turns of all time. And oh, here we go. They're just going to brush that gravel off the track there.
Machines have not pitted yet, and for so many cars to be able to swap position based on a pit stop at this stage of the race is remarkable. It is a great scrap, very close.
Well, for one thing, the drivers are so closely matched this time. Each of these teams has, 3 drivers that are real pros. I've never seen such depth in the driving area, so you don't get that loss of a lap suddenly because you've got a third-rate driver in there.
As we continue to follow the progress of our leader around the track, another battle developing. We'll be back to pick up all the action here at Le Mans in just a minute. Welcome back to Le Mans. We were talking moments ago about how close the battle was in the prototype category. Well, how about this one? Still only 30 seconds separating the lead number 29 Toyota and this car, the number 25 Porsche GT1, the 98 version of Mueller, Ullzen, and Bub Wallach. And that car has been, as we talked about, running a standard classic Porsche type of race and remaining very close in the chase. There's a look now at the leader. By the way, we want to let you know the Team Nissan number 31, currently in 13th spot, did a pit stop about a lap or so back. So they are staying with their program as well. But again, a remarkable development really with this lead Toyota. There's the number 32 entry making its way back out. After all the problems that the team cars have developed, this one is just running like clockwork.
Yeah, that sports prototype battle continues, That Cougar has got back in front of the 2 factory Porsches. Everything's seesawing around amazingly.
Working that car, working through Tertre Rouge and now onto the Le Mans Mulsanne Straight, of course, now broken up into 3 segments, but one tends to forget that they are still long segments, and we're 7 hours into the 24 hours of Le Mans here, and you can see that car all by itself at this stage, some 23.5 seconds out in front of the 2nd place number 25 Porsche, which remarkably now has only about 20 seconds on the team car, so that battle for second between the teammates is closing up. And with the 2 Yost cars having their pit stops, the number 30 Nissan has now rejoined the top 5 easily into 4th, and the 13 Courage Nissan runs in 5th. So the battle is close, and again, we're not seeing a whole lot of difference between these lead cars.
What do you guys think of this car? I mean, just in terms of its looks and appearance on the road.
Looks like a Group C car to me.
It does. It looks like a car from a couple of years ago, but they say it does not have anything like the extreme downforce, that this whole body was designed for low drag only, and it only has a few hundred pounds of downforce. It doesn't look like that, doesn't handle like that, but I believe him. It is only 7 hours into the race. That would be an unusual place for anyone else to have gone off. Be a different story later on.
Watching now, we just saw some shots of the 2nd place, number 25 Porsche. There it is, and it too is having a very problem-free run at this stage. Closing up, that's one of the Nissans there as well. And a good solid run here. This is, I'm sorry, that is the 26 machine. Currently in third, and yet only 20 seconds less than that, actually. 18 seconds behind the second place car. So both of the Porsche GT1s, even with the problems of the Le Mans prototype, are running very, very strong. And our overall race leader, the number 29 Toyota, making its way down pit lane and heading right toward Calvin Fish.
Ralph Kellners brings the number 29 machine into the marks. The engine goes off. The team goes to work right now. They're actually refueling, and there's a technician here on the side, obviously an outside assist that they're allowed. They're also allowed one person, other than the four mechanics on the car, to assist with the driver change. What he can do at this stage is basically change the drinks bottle that they're doing. Looks like Ralph is certainly going to stay in the car. I don't see any indication of a tire change at this point, and they're probably going to just give it a quick squirt of a spray on the windshield, clean it up, send him on his way. Obviously a very difficult time of the day as the sun starts to set for these drivers. They certainly need a good clean shield to see out of. That's what they're doing. They're going to get ready to fire it back up. Looks like a routine stop.
Watching the number 29 machine head out on track, and we've been talking about the mirror that has been following that car around. The number 25 Porsche is in the pits as well. There it is. And boy, I tell you, that number 29 Toyota pits, the Porsche pits, and Davey is there.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of action happening down here in the Porsche pits. This seems to be a routine stop. The fuel's going in. They are not changing tires. They're keeping the same tires on, and Elzin is staying in the car. Now they're just they're firing it up, and out they go.
Yeah, I think that was a slightly quicker pit stop. 49 seconds the gap when they came in, and it'll be interesting to see next time round whether any space was made up there. But two absolutely perfect pit stops, didn't need to change tyres, and now you see this Mobil 1 back car coming back onto the racetrack.
They've used that strategy to perfection a couple of times already to make up a lot of ground on that lead car, and they continue to just play the mirror. There he is, giving us a salute. Welcome to Le Mans. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This happened just moments ago. It was the chicane that leads into the Dunlop Bridge area. A little bit too hot. We thought cold tires, but remember, they didn't change tires. He just got it all wrong, and he got very lucky as he skipped over the gravel, Sam.
Olsen there, and he gets around behind onto this little road here. He thought very, very quickly, almost like a Michael Schumacher, and nursed it back around and back onto the track. I suspect no damage has been done. The car, as you can see it right here, looks terrific. I think he probably got away with that, but boy, it was close.
And in fairly short order, after the problems the number 7 car had, that was another, I would think, heart-stopping moment for all the crew watching the monitors, seeing that car skipping across the gravel. You're right, I think he did get away with it.
Well, we talk about superstitions, but sometimes things do come in bunches. They did earlier for the Toyota team, who ran so successfully, and then suddenly, bing, 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 they had 3 problems in about 20 minutes. So sometimes when you start to see problems occur, it can really run right through the team in a hurry.
Yeah, Louis Alton has never done this race before, but because he had a great run at Daytona this year, if you remember, Sam, he actually won the GT1 category in one of the Raw team cars, and I think was second overall, I think.
Well, you know, this is a time of day, you guys, when it really is tough to drive this track because every lap brings dramatically changing light conditions, and you have to really have your wits about you because the rhythm, you see the Viper there stopping at the pits, the rhythm of whatever you've been doing is completely altered by the optical effects. I mean, if it was a track that was slower or easier to see, it would be different. There's a conference in the Porsche area there, but it isn't. It's full. It's a track full of optical illusions of one kind or another. When the light begins to go and your own artificial light begins to come up, and the light inside the car, remember, sometimes very bright from the dashboard, becomes a factor. It's very easy to have your concentration rattle.
It's all about, and they do provide that here. Now, that's an interesting story developing. That's the number 40 McLaren BMW. Calvin.
Bill Auberlen is behind the wheel, Greg, and he's taken over. I think it was Tim Sugden who jumped out. Looked like a routine stop, fuel, new set of Pirellis, and he's on his way.
Now, this is the car, I believe, Andrew, that in the BPR, I'm not sure exactly what the new name of it is, the GTR series or whatever, has been a front runner.
Oh, no, not the case. That's been running in the British Privilege Insurance GT Championship. It's a very competitive championship. It's got 3 listed Jaguars in it. It's got a couple of the customer Porsches, the GT1s, and it's got that McLaren, which has been winning races. Tim Sugden's a guy that's been around quite a long time. was driving for BMW as a touring car racer, and then dropped back into Vento, Volkswagen one-mate racing, has come back up because Steve O'Rourke suddenly spotted him as a talent. They won the Privilege Insurance GT Championship last year in a GT2 car, and as you see, it's got the EMI sponsorship, and O'Rourke is just a wonderful character. And Tim Sugden is a very forthright young man.
Think that I was sort of taking part in powering the Ferris wheel, or maybe it was the other way around. You get a little bit crazy driving this race.
There you see the world feed graphic, but you know, to me that makes sense because drivers so often talk about you get into a rhythm, and if you can find that rhythm,
yeah,
I mean there is very much that sensation, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can also feel as if you're moving around a tethered point at the center of the track. I think that's less true these days with all the chicanes, but in the old days when you just ripped around this much simpler track, you get that feeling that it was all like a giant centrifuge.
The battle continuing, by the way, in GT2. You just saw a glimpse of the number 53 Viper. 6 seconds is all they lead by at this stage. We'll be back with more.
If they can't, then we will simply say, look, to any sanctioning body, come and make us a proposal and we'll listen. Yeah. But it should be, for sports car racing, it should be unified.
Can I just interject, Dan? The 29 car has now slipped to 3rd place. I'm sure that leading Toyota has a problem, so maybe we can find out about that. And now we have Porsche 1st and 2nd.
It has slipped to 3rd at the margin of 2 minutes and 30 seconds, so something is developing. There is no question. And down we saw the number 44 car. They're continuing to work on it. Hopefully they'll be able to get that back and out and running for you in short order.
Yeah, Calvin's done such an outstanding job in the pits there, and Davey, I'm sure they're going to be on top of that story with that 29 car.
Boy, some of the imagery here is absolutely stunning as they work through. That was the Ford chicane onto the front straight. Look at that. I mean, that is what Le Mans is all about. That is in many ways what sports car racing is, and certainly can be all about. Glorious.
Right, and we're going to try and do our share of that in the States, and we're inviting all the teams out there to come and participate in the Petit Le Mans and Le Mans Series next year, and we know that the U.S. fans will support it because they really want to see high-tech sports car racing.
Will you race in the night there in that race?
Yep, at the Petit Le Mans there will be at least 2 hours of dark racing.
Right.
Let's jump down quickly to Calvin, who has an update on the problems perhaps being experienced by the number 29 Toyota.
Well, the Toyota crew look on, but actually the car is not slowing on the track. They had a slow pit stop in as much as they had to do a pad and disc change. They obviously lost quite a bit of time. That typically takes about 3 or 4 minutes, so that's probably why he lost the space on the track. But the engineer is, in fact, a female engineer. I'm not sure of her name. She said no problems with the car. The car's running fine, and Jeff is just back out there running at his own pace.
And we're obviously some intense activity going on in the number 25 Porsche pit, the current leader. And it has a lap in hand now over the number 26 team car. And they've completed the stop, and we believe it is Bob Wallach who has jumped behind the wheel of that car. Once again, this is his 50th 24-hour race, if you include the 24 hours of Spa and the 24 hours of Daytona. He's won 9 of them. Never has it been the 24 hours of Le Mans. I'm sure in his 50th try at a 24-hour race, he'd like to finally bring that one. Welcome back to Le Mans, particularly to the garage of the Toyota number 29. The experience of the savvy race driver, Sam, you noticed that the lap times were not really what they should have been. It suddenly pulled in and went right into the garage. The engine cover came off, a serious problem.
Andrew noticed some smoke, too. The point is that they did 4 relatively slow laps by their standards after they made that supposedly routine stop. Now, Calvin's down there. Maybe he can get the story.
Well, I spoke to and she said there was no problem, obviously, with the cars, just a brake pad change that delayed them. But as you guys suspected, and right now they pulled it straight into the garage. The team went straight to work. It's like they knew the problem. They're actually working on the left half shaft coming out of the gearbox. So I'm not sure if the oil was actually coming from that area of the car or whether it's an internal engine problem, but they went straight to the half shaft coming off the gearbox. That's what they're working on right now. So maybe you had a failure in the drivetrain area right there. We'll give an update shortly.
Unbelievable development. If we had thought that brake pad change and everything was fairly routine, you would expect the teams to do 1, 2, a few of those. This is by no stretch routine.
I'll tell you, well, this ends it's the end of the beginning of this race. Phase 1 is over as of right now, which was the Toyota able to stay out front of the 2 Porsches. The Porsches have now assumed the lead, and Nissan, if this pit stop goes on much longer, will move up into 3rd, and the battle will become one of Porsches versus was Nissan instead of Porsches versus Toyota. But once again, of course, the commonality in all of this is the word Porsche. Here in their 50th anniversary, their first victory back here in 1970. They're gunning for their 16th, and right now they are running 1-2.
And, of course, this is going to spell some good news, perhaps, for the number 45 Panos, which is back in ninth. It would, in fact, move up. I mean, as you said, this is going to certainly alter things drastically. But that's true. It is Nissan versus Porsche. It is whoever versus Panos versus Porsche at this stage. The Porsche juggernaut just continues to roll. And in sixth place is the number 8 entry, still in with a very strong hunt in the Le Mans prototype division. But good performance, I think, by the number 30 Nissan right there in fourth. Very solid.
Yeah, but they are 3 laps plus a little bit back. So they're not in anything like an attack position. And we know, or we have heard, that Porsche has been running off of their pace. If I was in betting man at this point, even with the race just over a third finished, I'd be very apprehensive about betting against Porsche. Of course, the 2 GT1 cars, which were different cars, but still similar in many ways, both met grief last year in the morning of the second day, and anything can happen.
Let's take a look at our current standings here as we close in on the 11 o'clock hour. The leader remains the number 25 Porsche, a lap up on the team car, number 26. The 30 Nissan finds itself now in third. The Courage is now fourth, and leading in the Le Mans prototype class, that is the number 8 car, chasing it, currently second in that class.
Light has come here. Dawn is several moments ago, and a cold wind swept through here, chilling everybody a little bit, particularly those who were wet from the rain shower that came through at about 4 o'clock in the morning. But the fans have rallied. The excitement on the track is incredible at this point, with an exchange of the lead. You see the stands beginning to fill. And let's go down now to our pit reporter, Calvin Fish. Calvin?
Well, Sam, when we left last night, we had the lead Toyota come in for a gearbox change. They did a very good job of getting the car on track, but they did lose the lead to the Porsches. Overnight, they scrambled back. They clawed away at the lead on the Porsches, and when the Porsches hit trouble this morning, the number 29 car with Jeff Lees behind the wheel took the lead for about an hour or so. But just 10 minutes ago, they brought the car back in. The gearbox seems to be the Achilles heel in this car right now, but this time they changed the gearbox in around 10 minutes. So he's back on track. He is behind the leading Porsches right now, but still, he's got a good transmission under him right now. Also, an update on the 28 machine, the Brundle car running very fast, but in the haste to make up time, Martin had an off in the wet this morning. The car has been retired.
The standings at the moment. Number 26 is out front officially at this point. 29 Toyota is second. 32 Nissan, and the Nissan's having a great run at it. Another Porsche following the Nissan, and another Nissan rounding out the top 5. Of course,
Point brought up, they went 25,000 plus miles of testing, and they had to. The run they're having now showing what that testing can do when you compare it to last year. They had a rough go here.
Yes, but the one place that you can't test is here at Le Mans, except in that pre-qualifying weekend. And really, it's such a tough racetrack here, and you just can't show it anywhere else, the kind of problems that this racetrack really does throw at you, particularly during the night.
Boy, you know, they are only, here's the lead car. No, yes, it is. A little smoke coming out of that lead Toyota. That car is only 1 lap ahead of the Nissan. So the front 3 are running very, very close together. Toyota, Porsche, and Nissan. A lot of fight left in this Nissan team, and in fact, they have run the classic race, eschewing the early battle with the front runners who pushed on so hard. I mean, this is classic Le Mans racing, and then just running their own game plan and coming on slowly.
And it remains very close, Sam. I mean, we've got the lead 2 cars on the same lap. The second place car only 45 seconds back. This car, Andrew, that remarkable performance by the number 40 McLaren BMW, has still a very strong hold on 6th.
Well, it certainly does. The car has run faultlessly all through the night, and it's been driven very well indeed by Steve O'Rourke, by, of course, the American Bill Oberlin. What a great job he's done, and also by its regular driver, Tim Sugden. I'm really impressed with this trio.
Bill Oberlin visited us earlier in the race, as you know, and his enthusiasm was contagious, wasn't it? I mean, he's a Le Mans rookie. You'd never know it from the performance he's putting in. But I think the spirit on that team is tremendous. And Andrew, at that point, you recalled a prediction that this car might finish 5th, and right now it's 6th with over 5 hours to go. I'd say that's about as close as you can call one.
Well, like Bill was saying, boy, if we get into the top 5, what a huge moment that would be in his career. Well, at the time, they were back about 15th. I mean, it didn't seem possible at all. Now everything seems possible. Welcome back to Le Mans. You're looking at the overall race leader, the number 29 Toyota, piloted by a really august group of drivers, Thierry Boutsen, Ralph Kelleners, and Jeff Lees. And it continues to lead, but we have noticed some smoke, and it might be of the telltale variety, might be giving us an indication of some sort of a problem, and that is the last thing they need. Andrew, you were just pointing out how close this is from the top 5.
Less than 2 laps separates the first 5, and we're 3/4 of the race run. I mean, that is absolutely stupendous. And, well, I think everything's to do yet. I think we've got a 6-hour sprint race coming up, literally.
I would agree. The number 29 Toyota, whatever that smoke is, not enough to bring them into the pits at this point, at any rate, out of the forward curves, down the front straight. However, there's the indication that next lap, Boutsen behind the wheel, they expect to have him call in at the pits. Now the question is, will he pull in and stop for routine service, or will they make that hard right turn into the garage area, Sam?
Well, we've seen what Toyota has done in the past with this situation. If they know they have a gearbox problem, which they have had, they keep the car out there as long as they can while they ready the parts back in the pits. Then they come in very organized. They attack it almost with surgical fervor, I would say. The trouble is, do parts remain? I mean, you know, they've been using up gearbox parts. How deep are they in their parts supply? That is a major concern, I would say, for Toyota.
Well, interestingly, too, the number 28 car with that big off that Brundle had in the wet, that car is out, so they can maybe scavenge some parts off of that at this point. The Michelin field summary is what you're looking at right now, and you see that number 29 Toyota leading, but problems developing right there. As Andrew said, the top 5 right now covered by some 2 laps only, very close. Then that remarkable drive by the McLaren BMW sits in the 6th spot right now, a couple of laps further back nonetheless. And then the 31 Nissan right there in 7th. We go down to 11th, and this is really a very solid performance. 11th overall is the leader in the GT2 division. Gives you an idea of just what a remarkable pace that the Vipers have set. Not necessarily a quick pace, they have just stuck to their pace in a car that can run much quicker than it is at this point. You'd think changing an entire gearbox is going to spend a few laps in the pits. This is going to really juggle things. The car making its way down into the pit at this moment, working through the rather intricate pit in, trying to keep the cars at a relatively sane speed as they make their way down. Then, of course, the pit speed limit will kick in right about here. You'll see the cars start to slow down significantly, and that car is making its way toward that pit. And, of course, Calvin Fish, I'm sure, eagerly awaiting to see what develops, Calvin.
Well, Thierry Boutsen brings it in, Greg, and it is a 60-kilometer speed limit there, and they do not want to incur a penalty there, as it's a stop and go where they have to bring the car back in. A short while ago, as they're preparing for this, it looks like it's going to be a routine stop, fuel and tires, but they did wheel in a large crane, an overhead crane, which would actually straddle the car in the event that they needed to maybe change a transmission or gearbox or whatever. Maybe Andrew, when we finish this, can give us an update on whether they can actually change the complete transmission. I'm not sure what the rules are with that type of thing, whether they just have to do the internals or not. But right now, it seems that it's a routine stop. They didn't clear the garage area as they did earlier when they knew that they're going to have to do some major surgery on the car. The fuel is in. They're cleaning the windshield right now. It looks like they're not going to change the tires. Thierry fires it back up, and they're back out of here. But at the moment, at least, it looks like the lead car, the number 29 machine, is back on course with no further problems.
Yeah, Calvin, I believe they can change that gearbox. The one thing they can't change, of course, is the engine.
All right, the number 29 Toyota back on course, heading toward the Dunlop Bridge. But for how long? We'll be back here at Le Mans in just a minute. We're going to follow this story. Looking at the Toyota pit once again, and that would we would suspect that is the number 27 car that has had just continuing chronic problems throughout the evening. And you see, look at that, one of the tire technicians trying to get an idea as to what the track temperature might be.
And it is warming up rapidly. The sun, you just feel it baking in. It's 10 degrees warmer than it was as little as half an hour ago.
Let's take a look at our standings at this point. The number 26 factory Porsche continues now in the lead. 24 seconds, though, and that's it, is the margin it has in hand over the number 29, Boutsen, Kellner's, and Lee's Toyota. Running in the third spot, the other of the works Porsches, Mueller, Altzen, and Wallach, the drivers in that machine. Then the two Nissans run fourth and fifth. Then that BMW, the McLaren BMW, having such a strong run. In ninth overall at this point remains the prototype leader. That is the Taylors, Van de Poel, and Velez Ferrari. And again, a remarkable story. I would think in GT2 up to 11th overall is the Viper, and it still holds on over the Rook Porsche and then the 51 Team Viper.
Yeah, when you talk 24 hours, a lead of 24 seconds is a mere whisper.
It is very close indeed. Remember, although we'll be leaving you in just a couple of seconds here, we will be back for the final 2 hours of this great classic, and then we'll stay on for an extra half hour to wrap things up, get some interviews and the like. Good look there, that little bit of smoke emanating from the back of the Toyota. Will it hang on? I guess, Sam, that is the question of the moment.
And there are others too. The Vipers hanging in the balance, but mostly a great race for the lead with less than one lap covering the first 5.
We certainly hope to see you in just a few hours here as we bring you the finish of this.
The lap record was actually done in the night, just before he crashed, by Martin Brundle.
At what speed?
3:41 he did.
41.
Now
So
remember, they qualified at a 3:35, so in the middle of the night at Le Mans in long-distance race trim, lapping within 6 seconds of the qualifying lap record. That's a pretty stout accomplishment.
Well, obviously they set the cars for qualifying trim, which reflects the fact that this pace is really much hotter than it seems. I mean, exactly. If you say, oh, it's 6 or 7 seconds off what they qualify, that's really not true at all, because the cars have to be perforce not running qualifying tires and in qualifying trim.
Interesting, the battle we're watching here, because that is your 5th place McLaren BMW having a superb run. Obviously not as quick overall as the GT1 Porsche, but through keeping a very solid pace, that McLaren BMW finds itself in the top 5. And if you were here when Bill Oberlin sat in with us, the possibility of a top 5 was asked, and he said it would be awesome, but he didn't think it was possible. Guess what?
Look, I was so impressed with the way that Bill has driven here. To come here completely blind to a Le Mans track and do this great job, it's outstanding, you know, because, as I said before, O'Rourke, who owns the car, is not the fastest man, he'll admit that.
And you know that McLaren is only 8 laps off the pace after 22 hours plus of running. That's incredible.
Trying to figure this one out, because when they pitted there was over a minute difference. When they came out it was just about 45 seconds. The Porsche took on tires, the Toyota didn't, which should have made the Toyota stop a little bit quicker, yet the gap comes down. We're wondering about maybe Thierry Boutsen had a much slower outlap, and maybe Alan McNish got behind the wheel of the Porsche and just flogged it on the opening lap. Amazing on new cold tires.
No, I can't believe for a second there would be that big a difference in the driver approach. It might be a second or 2 at the very most. It's conceivable that the Toyota had a problem with the gear again, leaving, you know, the pits for the first time. I mean, it's just at least we know this for a fact. The gap is down from over a minute to 45 seconds with less than 2 hours to go. So I mean, we've got a tremendous race on our hands, and with Porsche having just changed their tires and the track faster, I believe, than it has been at any time since the race began. I mean, for one thing, there's a lot less traffic now, only about half the cars running, remember. It's cooled down. The threat of rain came through, appears to have dissolved, but it's left a nice cool running condition here.
To get so black on the side of these cars, they want to make sure that the scoring official can really see the numbers on the side of the car, guys.
All right, Calvin, and we have a shot right now of the Porsche pits, and they are very, very excited, and the reason is we are missing the number 29 Toyota. It is now 2nd place, and it is a lap down. The number 26 Porsche is now in the lead, and the rumors are that the 29 Toyota is out on the circuit. It is parked somewhere out there. This is a fascinating development. Look at it. You can see one of the Porsche mechanics dancing in the pit lane. They are excited. All right, this is the 27. That is the sister car, of course, and it has made a stop in pit lane. It had set some very good. The 29 Toyota had been having such a solid run, but the car you're looking at right now, the Porsche team, find themselves in 1-2, Andrew.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering about team orders. Bob Wallet, what a wonderful servant for Porsche. We've heard about all those 9 24-hour victories, but never won this one. I just wonder if they might, for old time's sake, sentimentality, put him in front. Sam, what do you think?
Well, it's a sentimental time for Porsche. The 50th anniversary of the starting of their company. They gun for their 16th win here in Le Mans. Dr. Porsche died this year. Things that maybe wouldn't have happened at another year might very well happen this year. That said, I still doubt it. I think it would just be too savagely unfair to the men that have driven this car here. I can't see taking it away from Alan McNish. But then again, there's still over an hour of racing to go, and just 20 minutes ago, we thought the Toyota was cruising home to victory. So the old adage about things can happen at the last minute very much in force here at Le Mans.
Unquestionably, and as a matter of fact now, the number 29 Toyota finds itself in 4th. Nissan is in the top 3 here at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, as we have about an hour and 10 minutes remaining. Again, those two Porsches separated by a lap. We want to point that out. The lead car in your picture is the lead car, I believe, overall. And again, the number 25 car runs second, a lap back, then 2 laps adrift. The number 32 Nissan as they make the appearance in the top 3. Then the 29 Toyota, and it's important to point out that the 29 Toyota's lap count has not changed since the problem arrived. We are inside the Toyota pits, and that looks like consolations being handed out right there.
Yeah.
This could be a very, very sad sign indeed.
How can you feel? How can you feel?
It's just unbelievable, the emotion that must be happening right there, right now. As I said, since the problem cropped up, they sit at 330 laps and just continue to drop down. As a matter of fact, the number 40 BMW McLaren is now within 2 laps of moving into the top 4. There's a great story. But look at the faces of the crew there. They worked so hard. And Sam, we were watching when they were thrashing on that car so eloquently, in a way. I mean, the way that they executed those gearbox changes and those stops was something remarkable. And they are set. On the other hand, over in the Porsche pit, smiles starting to build all around.
Well, Porsche obviously has just an awful lot to celebrate, but you know, the way they stalked the Toyota, they never gave him a moment, did they? I mean, they kept the pressure on what was probably a faster car in the Toyota, at least a little bit faster. Just after the finish of this enormous crowd which gathers here at the main grandstands just under where we're sitting to sweep down toward the victor's podium. 100,000 people at least in one area, something you very rarely see. You see the checkered flag standing by and the little breeze blowing it.
And Sam, yes, we look into those eyes. Look at that expression again. Hurtling down the Mulsanne Straight for the very last time.
Look at the corner workers. It is not over yet, but they know it is essentially done. They are applauding already. A few of the flags are waving. It is usually on the cool-down lap when the full expression from the corner workers as well as the crowd is offered up to the winning team and drivers, but they continue now down, heading toward that second and final chicane on Mulsanne, then into the legendary hairpin, and the crowd is just urging them on. We're on board now with one of the Nissans, the car running in 3rd place right now. And look at the relaxed posture. He knows he's 4 laps adrift, but they have a 3rd place after all. Not a bad 24 hours work.
Now, often in the past here, we've had the crowd actually go right over the racetrack, particularly in the Jaguar days. They were all over the place, and the cars couldn't even finish properly. And I don't think we're going to see that today, but the finish here, the cars usually just peel off at the end of the pit road. They don't make another tour. Porsche flags.
Big flags at that. The supporters here incredibly loyal, no question. Coming up now on the back of one of the GT cars that is just trying to limp around and get themselves at least a mention in the results for 1998. Through the Mulsanne hairpin for the final time. The corner workers again saluting, and now they head down to this daunting piece of real estate at full race speed toward Indianapolis and Arnage. There is the time, but 2 minutes and perhaps less remaining.
Hard to say. I'm glad to see that Toyota hanging in there for the pictures. They really made the race until an hour and 20 minutes out. They were very possibly a winner of the race. The team certainly cannot be compared in depth and strength to Porsche. The Porsche achievements speak for themselves, but Toyota really brought us a terrific race here. They not only their drivers, but the crew that kept repairing those cars through thick and thin and getting them back on the road.
Particularly for a first-time effort for this particular team. Toyota's been here before, but not this organization, and really remarkable for a first-time effort.
Certainly a debut race, of course, for that car. The Porsche has raced before this season.
But I gotta say, Andrew picked everything here. He had Bill Oberlin for 5th. He looks like he's got 4th, and he identified the possibility that the Toyotas wouldn't finish just about 10 minutes before that happened. So it's been a great pleasure to have him on board here, because it's given us, I think,
that could have been the number 12 Ferrari leading in the Le Mans prototype class.
It was.
And as you pointed out, you've got to go across the finish line.
Yeah.
Oh my, big developments here at the end.
Wayne Taylor in trouble.
Working through the Porsche curves one final time. Once they exit the Porsche curves, the Ford chicanes are the only turns. Look at the celebration, Sam.
I mean,
there it is. Look, just at the bottom of your picture.
Oh, that's the Momo car.
Yeah.
That's the Momo. Oh, a sigh of relief from the pits for the Ferrari team.
Yeah, I would suggest that he just let them by and then he'll pick up speed again. He didn't want to do another lap.
That's it. Oh, good. That's a relief.
Final turn out of the Ford chicane onto the front straight. Listen to the crowd. There is the photo opportunity. Porsche wins Le Mans. Look, the celebration from here to Affair. That's Yannick Dalmas watching as well. Porsche has won it. Porsche has swept it. 1-2. Alan McNish behind the wheel with a great team backing him up, and certainly Uwe Olsen, the two young lions, as you pointed out, Sam, getting the job done.